Hi, I'm Ali Words, and this is Last Unrifled Yaw. Last Unrifled Yaw is a podcast where we have conversations about video art, experimental music, avant-garde literature, performance art, and the occult. If you or someone you know would like to be on Last Unrifled Yaw, please get in touch. Birdpeople is a musical trio making experimental music with a wide range of techniques. Hello everyone, this is Last Unrifled Yaw, and I'm Ali Words. Today, we don't just have one guest, we have three. We have the band called Birdpeople with Jakob, Cecilia, and Amanda. Could you all introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Hello, I'm Jakob. I'm a music maker, I suppose, and some other things as well. I've studied philosophy, and that goes into all of this quite a lot, I suppose. And yeah, that's me, tinkerer and music maker, maybe.
I love it. Cecilia?
Yes, I'm Cecilia. I am firstly a violinist. So I have spent a lot of time in the classical world and also some folk music and all of the different genres. And then this little group started doing the other stuff, which was very, very liberating, I think, coming from those very kind of structured genres. And I also work as a violin teacher and studied maths for a bit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I studied both philosophy and math, so we're
All
in
right.
good company.
Nice.
Amanda?
Yes, hi, I'm Amanda, and I guess I would say I'm also a music maker in some way. I think for me, music is self-expression. So I think I mainly play the drums, but it kind of happened to be the drums. It could be quite any kind of instrument, I would say. But I work as a musician. I have different bands and different projects, and I'm also soon. I've also been studying philosophy, but I'm also soon a gardener. So that's also a big interest of mine. The the growing world.
Yeah, I like gardening too.
Nice.
Cool. So together you form the group Birdpeople. If someone has never heard of Birdpeople, what would you tell them? What is it?
This is a test that we repeatedly have failed before. It's Birdpeople is really hard to, for us at least. I don't. Might be the case that it's not like this for other people, but for us, it's really hard to pin down what it is and what we're doing. We can describe it. It just takes like several hours sometimes. But I would say Birdpeople is
What emotions does it convey for you?
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, we started off in a different band in a different genre, and Birdpeople sort of came from us, like removing ourselves from that genre, which was more pop, I think. And then from that on, we just keep kind of never wanting to be in the box that we are currently in. So every song we make, whatever it tends to be, we always try to pull it the other way. So I think it's very difficult to put a label on because we kind of always resist the labels in some ways. We played in Germany last year, and they put the genre Scandinavian Kraut for us, and I think that's one of the
that was good.
one of the labels that we have that we enjoyed the most.
Yeah, I think at least for me, Birdpeople is kind of a vessel to explore the edges of genres and styles and instruments.
Yeah, I would maybe add also that I agree with both of you. I would also add that, like, maybe I'm well, I have my reservations about the term psychedelic art, psychedelic music, because a lot of it is just, how should I put this? So maybe a lot of it is about invocation. We invoke psychedelic states of consciousness to just kind of, convey a vibe that makes this palatable to an audience that likes, tie-dyes and, there's also psychedelic music that's not as often named psychedelic music. It goes under different aliases maybe, but that is more about, not about invoking, but about evoking, right? So it's about creating, holding a space for experiences that I hesitate to call psychedelical, but that would be an aesthetically unpleasing but basically correct term for what we try to.
Close enough.
Close enough, yeah. Okay. Did I mention we're pretty verbose people? I'm sorry about this.
No, that's good. Podcasts are they're almost a literary format, right? The only thing that you convey is, unless you add music to the episode, is your words. But when people ask me what kind of music I listen to, it's always funny unless they're also into experimental music, because I just tell them I listen to experimental music, and then they ask me, what does that sound like? And I'm like, well, it always sounds different.
Right. Right.
Because I want something new every time. Like I'll return to an album or a song or an artist or whatever, but when I'm listening to music, I'm often looking for someone who is experimenting with the form of their music or the timbres. They're actively trying to do something different than they've done before.
Yeah,
and I think that's also why why it's so difficult to just like drop a label, because if I say something, then I'm also very convinced that the other person will have an idea of what kind of music we do, and it won't be what we do somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about what you do. Like, we could pick a song or an album or whatever you would most enjoy talking about. I recently listened to Jinwar, if that's how you say it correctly,
Yeah.
a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be a link to your link tree, obviously, in the description for anyone that wants to check these out. But so, like, what's the instrumentation? And we can pick a specific track on Jinwar if you'd like.
So Jinwar is the one, that's the single with Jinwar and Rosario, right? That's just a 2-track. Or are we talking about the full album?
Just a song.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of... Oh, I listened to multiple things that day. But yeah, we can talk. There's a Jinwar track that is 5 minutes and 55 seconds.
Yeah. Fortuitous.
Cool. And then 3 minutes and 33 seconds is the other track. So that adds up to 888.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yes, it does.
All right. We can talk about that later if you want. But like, what are the instruments or the effects that you are primarily using on those 2 tracks?
Well, the foundation for Jinwar is something that I made as an experiment. I was very much into analog, and I tried to make something by just using like a software, a plug-in Rhodes piano, and then just digitally distorting through digital reverbs until weird stuff happened, just to get away from like fetishization of analog gear that I was quite heavily invested in at that time. So that's like the main soundscape for Jinwar is it's a Rhodes piano going through a gazillion digital reverbs, too hot, and then some granular manipulation, I think. Then we just added.
So that's the like ding dong, those kind of songs. And then we have also the bass.
Yeah, the bass was. Yeah, that was an early. Yeah, that's just a Moog, I think, that I added and thought it sounded kind of cool and Blade Runnery. But then maybe you can talk a little bit more about what we did next.
Yeah, I think next step, because you took it quite far yourself.
Yes.
But then it kind of got stuck, so I went in with my viola and did some recorded some strings for it. I think it was just like six recordings, and that's it.
Yeah, 100% wet through like a bronze plate reverb or something.
A lot of distortion and reverbs. Yeah, but that kind of made it. That's kind of the second part of the song, where the drums also comes in.
We could also mention that on the album Eurovagus, that's how we pronounce it. I don't know how you would do it possibly in English, but like there's a track called Fallen Karyatir or Fallen Karyatid, which is that's just strings from Jinwar.
Yeah,
because they were so cool, we just had to have them soloed as well.
Yeah, so they were very, very improvised, I would say. I just like some of the songs takes years and some recordings takes 10 minutes or something. Yeah, but then we added drums later on.
Yeah, and the drums, for me, I never actually remember how we do the songs. They just happen. So, but the drums, I know that I recorded them at my own practice session, mainly with my phone and also with a few, like 2 cheap mics, because I really enjoyed the sound of the phone when you record drums through it. It's very, it gets like crushed to bits in a way, and it's quite heavy. So yeah, and then did we add? Yeah, that's the first part of the single.
Then we
with
just
the two songs.
And then we just kind of sit at the computer for as long as it takes and just rearrange things and try out like recording effect runs and just rearranging. And Jinwar wasn't too much like that. Jinwar is kind of straightforward, but sometimes we just get down to like a almost granular level and just it's very
Jinwar was
yes,
quite easy or quite fast.
Should we say something about Rosario as well then?
Yeah, we should.
Because it's we haven't talked about that too much, and it's cute.
Yeah, so for anyone listening, Rosario comes right after Jinwar on like a 2-track EP.
Yeah, that's a single from our latest album, Jinwar Rosario.
So you view them as a single work? Together, Jinwar Rosario is a single?
Yeah, Jinwar is on the album as well. It's the first track on the album, but Rosario is like the B-side for Jinwar there. It's Rosario isn't on the album, so it's Jinwar Rosario is like its own little microcosmos of the album, in a way.
That's cool. Kind of like an overture.
Sorta, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So what's up with Rosario?
Rosario, I think we were all quite quiet here because it's quite sensitive, or not sensitive, but close to our heart. Rosario is actually from a live recording, right?
Yes.
Taken from a live recording that we did together with Argentinian musician Rosario Blefari in Buenos Aires when we were there in 2018. A few years later, we learned that Rosario had passed away, which we took quite hard because she was very dear to us, and we had planned to do more music with her. But this track is part of a song that we did together with her that was quite improvised, actually.
Yeah, and the recording is just a producer called Axel Krüger who just had his Zoom 2-track field recorder, so that's why it's a little rough around the edges, because it's just a stereo file that we got when we were working. We were like in the thick of it with the album when we heard about Rosario dying, so we kind of made sure to get our hands on that file and do something with it. It's yeah, I love her. She does this little war cry. She just counts to 4, just shouting, ah, 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 ah! And that's how it was like maybe a 40-minute, it was a 40-minute improvised thing in 3 movements that we had worked on during a residency for several days. And yeah, very involved and very messy. And then Rosario was just like, yeah, don't be afraid, little birds. I'm just gonna shout 4 times, and that's the end. And that's how the song ends. And it's, I don't know, I think it's perfect. She sounds so fierce.
That's really cool. It's sad, but cool.
Yeah, it's sad.
So, to what extent do you all use music theory, if at all?
Differing.
Yeah.
Or maybe in what ways? I know at least one of you sounds like you know or are practiced with classical music, so I expect there to be probably a little bit of thought about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And it was always easier for me because I have this mathematical mind, so to find systems and to read notation and all of that was always easier than intonation and learning by ear and so on when I was smaller. So music theory has for sure been a big part in my studies. But yeah, I wouldn't say we use it a lot, but it can be always handy when you need to find some bass notes we don't really work a lot with chord progressions. Like we kind of enjoy sticking to 1 or 2 chords for as long as you can, but every now and then you need to do something, and then I for sure I sit down with the piano and use some theory.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, so it's there.
So would you say you all are more experimenting with like timbre rather than like chord progressions and harmony?
Definitely.
Yes.
Sounds are, I would say sounds are the...
But like, I think also, I'm not very good with music theory on like the practical particular level, but more of the like meta concepts of music history, like things like counterpoint and how that works, and pocket, for example. Those concepts have been very influential at least for how I approach music making. Like, so I don't know music theory or enjoy music theory enough to like write a species counterpoint. I mean, I have, but it's like Sudoku. It bores me. It's not my thing. But just like the concept of counterpoint or hocket, and just so maybe I tend to write like untheoretical counterpoint, like counterpoint by ear. It's not like just blocks of chords is not what we do most often. It's just like this cool sound with this tonality, then we can add this little thing here. Everything is independent. But I think like the concept of counterpoint, at a point where I was quite heavily invested in pop music and really fed up with it, the concept of counterpoint and some others, such as hocket, really fucking blew my mind open and were hugely influential on how I create music, I think.
Yeah, I think for me, music theory is definitely a great tool when you need it. But I think it's safe to say that we are more working like intuitively instead of using different tools to build stuff. Well, Cecilia said that sometimes if you get stuck it's good to have this tool that you can
Yeah.
pick up and okay, maybe we can do this kind of bass line instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, intuitively, I think is more our game.
Yeah. And even if I use something then it's just to find some options,
Exactly.
not to find a way. I mean, we find the way by ear, I think.
Not even by ear, by like the thickness of our crania just at the forehead. We just fucking lock horns and just keep on pushing forever. And something's gotta give. Usually it's a song, sometimes it's us, but it's not. It's not very. It's unclear who is instrumentalizing who. Like, is it the song instrumentalizing us or vice versa? Yeah. That makes no sense, right?
That makes sense. Yeah, it's kind of like writers will often talk about how their characters take on a life of their own, and they're not clear who's pushing the story. But the same thing can happen with almost any form of art.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's the for me that's like the sweet spot when you suddenly you're not the one in charge. It's the song that's in charge, and that's like for me, in lack of a better word, the magic of it. It's like, wow, okay, now something's happening. I'm not in charge here. And I also find it funny when some people, or if you do interviews and someone is like, okay, so what's this song about? Well, I know as little as you. It just came forth, and I don't know. It lives. It's its own world. Like, listen to it and see what it's to you. But I don't know more than you.
All right. Well, when you're in the editing phase, you have a lot of samples and tracks or whatever, and it sounds like afterwards you have a tendency to arrange them. What are you hoping to achieve when you're putting these pieces together? What kinds of feelings or effects, or how do you know it's good? Like, what are you aiming for?
Cecilia is gesturing vaguely towards her phone.
Oh no, it's that. No, I was thinking about something after our last concert that, and I think it's connected to what we talked about earlier, that we kind of always pull away from anything that could be recognized as something. I don't know, that always if a song is too happy or is too sad or it's too angry or something, then we need to find the contrast for it. The
rule of the diagonal.
Yeah, and to not like tell the listener or the audience what to feel, but instead just hold a space for them to feel.
Yeah, that's good. We used to talk a lot about like pornography before, theoretically. That, like, in a way that I think this is not I think maybe Oscar Wilde was here already, but several people have been, right? But that pornography is like the paradigm of a certain mode of artistic communication. And then, or maybe that there's pornography on one end of the spectrum and art on the other. And pornography is like, definitionally, maybe pornography is about, again, like evoking feelings in the audience, like making people feel something predetermined. Like, in the thing about like pornography as aesthetical paradigm is that it's always clear, I would think, how you're supposed to feel about what's happening, right? And that's, so whenever something becomes too clear cut or too didactic or Hollywoody, then we have this saying, go diagonal, and we go diagonal just in order never to veer into like porn territory. We don't want to, like Cecilia said, we want to hold a space, but we don't want to direct too much.
Yeah.
We just want to invite our audience to kind of be in a world that we create, and worlds are like messy and beautiful and weird and contain, like, Walt Whitman's multitudes, I guess.
Yeah, something I talk about with porn as aesthetic grammar is I have a tendency to compare it to certain genres of film, especially action movies. So like in porn, if you have like an actual porn with a theoretical plot, is whatever conflict arises, whatever happens in the so-called story, its only purpose is to be resolved with people having sex, right? Or in an action movie, there are some smart action movies. There's some smart like literary porn, but for the most part, an action movie, the purpose of anything that happens is to instigate a fight scene, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing could happen in some genres of music, where anything that you set up in the song, its purpose is to take you to a particular. It could be like a solo section if it's like a genre that likes to do lots of guitar solos, or it could be to set up a breakdown, or like. Or like the whole purpose of the first half of the song is so that you can drop the bass, and the only reason it exists is to get to this particular predictable climax that everyone is expecting. That aesthetic grammar shows up all over the place unless you purposely avoid it.
But then I think we can have themes in different songs. But then, for Gin War, for example, I think there is a theme of resistance in Gin War.
Yes.
And resilience, perhaps. But then, it's just a theme. It doesn't mean that the song is about resistance or that anyone that listens to it should feel that. But, I think we work with themes, but maybe...
keep them quite open-ended.
Yeah.
But it's like we used to watch when we formed Birdpeople. We used to like just improvise and project old science fiction and some like Jodorowsky and stuff like that. Some silent movies, but it's like I think our song, it's like a swashbuckling. It's like a space opera, right? So this is the planet Jinwar. This is the planet Crowskin Boots. This is the planet Gröna Revet or whatever. Like, it's just the world always has its. I want to use something from Heidegger that I don't know in English. Maybe you can help me. It's like, Stimmung. Like it's mood or. But it's musical. It's beautiful in German because it's musical. It's all tuning. The world is always tuned. It always has its tuning. That would be like a possible translation.
I see tone, mood, atmosphere, good mood, cheer, color, or I guess temper also.
Yeah, temper is also a good musical term. But it's just the world has its tone. The planet Jinwar has this. Stimmung, and but what happens on the planet, like the plot, that's for the listener to. Every listener is is supposed to be the protagonist in their own plot that takes place on this space opera. I don't know, desert resistant planet of Jinwar, etc., etc. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would say that. Music making, for me, and I think this holds true for you in some sense as well. That music making is this maybe sounds like tacky, but I don't mean that making music is in and of itself a political act of resistance. This is not what I'm saying. But to me, music making is in and of itself an act of defiance. Like, I'm sorry for all the name dropping today, but like Nietzsche has a wonderful thing somewhere, I don't know where it is, where he says that the purpose of art is to do damage to stupidity. Like, art well made has a real chance to do damage to stupidity, to make stupidity ashamed of itself turning against itself. I mean, this is of course like a complicated subject matter, but I think making something that's real is affirming life and love of life, and love of life, at least for me with my specific brain, and also I think for us all in these historic circumstances, like love of life, real. I'm not talking about fucking carpe diem, but like loving and affirming life and existence it's not an act of resistance per se, but it's always an act of defiance. And defiance is like the seed of...
It sounds a little bit like Nietzsche's will to power, and I could definitely see that in the way an artist who is actually enthusiastic or exuberant about what they're doing, that you have that will to power almost as will to life, in that you're doing it for its own sake almost.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I would say so.
I think I was previously in a different level
Yes.
of like, I was just thinking like, oh, while I record something, do I think about resistance while I play? Or, you always make, we always have, I think, this, I don't know, philosophical, or we always have discussions going on in the background while we work with our music. But then while working with the music, of course, you're also just taking musical decisions somehow. But I think always, or just taking musical, according to the theme or whatever. But it's kind of, the themes, I think, are working kind of in the background.
Yeah.
And then while you work with the music, you always also have to kind of stay true to the music and not be too distracted by the theme, because then you might want to add something that is not needed somehow. Then you might go to the pornographic place, if you somehow insert the theme too much.
Yeah, I'm thinking of some stuff I've done on piano before that is a little bit, I guess you could call it pornographic. But like one way that I would apply it to the theme of resistance is you could have like your right hand arpeggiating a chord up at like a little bit past the middle. I guess that would be like C4 maybe. But then you could have like a rolling Chopin-esque bass line that like gradually moves closer and closer to the arpeggiating chord as if to break through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it would fail and fall back a few times. Then eventually it would like reach over past the arpeggiating chord in your right hand. It would dissolve. Maybe that's not resistance. Maybe that's victory. I don't know. But you could apply different attitudes or symbolic meaning to different musical phrases or themes that are going on. And when I say musical theme in this context, I mean like the sequence of notes.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think
But then that does get a little bit pornographic or didactic, as we've talked about.
It can be.
I mean, we have gone...
A better composer could do it.
That's a t-shirt. That's a t-shirt I really desperately want. A better composer could do it. I'd wear that all the goddamn time. It's good.
I think we have left many songs behind because we couldn't really find a way to make them non-pedagogical or too emotional in some way, and then we just have to sort of drop them. I don't know.
For us, I think...
I mean, I just say that we also kind of...
I was just going to add that like field recordings fill this role for us. We make recordings where we go together, and then we like the provenance of certain recording, field recording from a phone or from a more proper one from a Zoom or something. The provenance has like an aesthetic of its own. Sometimes we process field recordings from a certain place like enough that you can't tell what it is, and that we could probably have arrived at similar sonic results via maybe a simpler method, or but then there's like embedding chunks of the world that have been important to us in the musical. It's like transplanting a little bit of real. So if we're world building, right? We're making a planet. Then transplanting a little bit of something living from a place that has been important to us, that just gives this fictional planet real life somehow. It's the closest I can get to making sense of it.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit magical, honestly. Like you're capturing the essence of life and injecting it into this homunculus that you're building.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
What kind of inspiration sources do you all have? I heard Hodorowski in there, and don't hesitate on name dropping. I like getting lists of links to find cool stuff, both for myself and for other people. So I heard Hodorowski already, but could be music or film or books. What kinds of stuff inspire you to make the music of Birdpeople?
Oh, it's exactly what you just said. So like movies, books, other music, a cool rock that you found, or like for me lately it has been pictures of archaeological findings that I've been very inspired by. It can be pretty much stuff that resonates inside of you, with you in some way. So it's hard to say exactly what it's going to be beforehand, but stuff that feels important and exciting.
That's cool. You're the first person to mention like archaeological findings as a source of inspiration.
Yay! Do I get a prize for that?
You do.
Yay.
Here's your gold star.
Thank you.
It's a fossilized gold star. Hooray!
I myself, since I work as a violin teacher, my head kind of explodes when listening to music. So I don't really listen to music so much. So I think for me, I'm mostly very inspired by the three of us always working together, and maybe we together watch some movie, or we send some pictures on Instagram that, kind of like Amanda can maybe send some picture of this archaeological findings, or so it's always, but it's kind of like brewing in the communication between the three of us always. I think, for me at least, that's the center of it. And then to make music that you kind of want to hear until it's finished, and you never want to hear it again. So
Exactly.
Yeah, sometimes I have to wait like 6 months before I listen to it again
Yeah.
when I make something.
Yeah.
I think for me it's always to do quite a lot with what I'm reading at the present, which I've been engaging a lot with, like dangerous reactionaries lately. I've been reading a lot of Gene Wolfe and Nietzsche and Borges, who is also politically suspect in certain ways. Trying to reconcile what I find valuable in their work with my own much more libertarian and egalitarian worldview, I guess.
And I will say for American listeners, libertarian has different connotations in Europe than America.
Oh yeah, it's a leftist thing. Yes. It's like an anarchism thing in Europe. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a parenthesis, but I read an article about, like, there was a real campaign to wrest the word libertarian from like Goldmanian anarchists in the US and claim it as a neoliberal term. It's a fascinating read. I can't remember where I read it. And then it's about building things for me a lot, like how I arrange my pedal board, what kind of signal chains I can dream up in my DAW, and also homemade instruments, electronical and acoustical and stuff like that. And then sometimes it's other music, but right now it's actually field recordings. I go out and I bring a field recorder, and then I crank the mics as hot as I can, and just to max out the output volume in my phones, and then I like sit, maybe smoke my pipe for a bit, and just kind of meditate and listen for an hour or 2 hours or something like that. And yeah, I've seen some shit, but I've also heard some like glorious music. So right now I'm kind of trying to negotiate how to make use of the music that I've kind of synthesized from that. So that's a big thing for me now. I'm in the middle of it, so I can't say that much about where it's going to lead, but that's what I'm working on right now.
I look forward to it. I always find the idea of field recordings interesting, but I don't know how to engage with it as a listener. Like just listening to a random person's field recording,
right?
It's probably not going to do anything for me. But It sounds like you're actually making things with the field recordings, which I've done a couple times for like noise tracks, but I'm definitely looking forward to whatever you end up doing with that.
Yeah, I mean, isn't always like the thing is to take something that's conceptually interesting to you as an artist and trying to make it like substantially interesting to somebody else or something like that. Like, how can we make this music in a way that's transmissible to another human, right?
Absolutely. Do you all have any questions you'd like to ask?
I was just thinking to add to, like, I don't know if it's source of inspiration or whatever, but I think, I mean, we have talked a lot about creating worlds. In every song is a world and so on, but of course also every song in some way relates to the world that we are in, and the like sorrows that we have, and anger, and whatever, all the feelings that we have in this world. And also I think a great sense of like this otherness feeling, or the feeling of not belonging to this world, or feeling that, you know, you look at people and you just don't understand what they are, and all of those kinds of emotions. So I think all of the worlds that we are building are they are both in a way like fantasy worlds, but they are also like imaginary pictures or feelings from this world, or feelings from the future of this world, or something like this.
They're dialectically entangled.
Yeah. In many different ways, but I think like the world that we live in is always present in our making of music.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I think it's almost obvious that everything we make is related to the to the position I'm in this world, where I am in this world, what I do, the people I know, where I live, what I eat. All these kind of things are ingredients that go into me, and then music comes out in a way.
I was thinking about we talked about inspiration earlier, and now we're talking about the world, and I would also, I'd be remiss not to add that a really big part of our inspiration and our project is when we go somewhere to play. The great thing about being in this band is that whenever we get to go somewhere and play, which is not as often as I would like, but still, we always meet people that, you know, just, it's like an encounter, right? We met Rosario in Buenos Aires and really just, you know, found each other on a like deep level, and that happens when we go places and play. And these meetings and these people, and especially as they pertain to Greenland, where we have been twice, which is like a different political discussion altogether. This has been like hugely important, I think, for us. It's I talked about music making as an act of defiance in the face of like some things that this world is earlier, and I think it's also about enshrining the love that we have felt and received while traveling, to just build like an edifice, a musical edifice to contain that love, right? Because it's been, yeah, we've been impacted by people.
Yeah, they blew our brains
Yeah.
to pieces, basically. Many people that we met.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Jakob, you said once that we made like a crystal of love. So I think like the music is a little bit of a crystallizing the love that we have for different people.
And for each
And
other.
for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know what I was going to say earlier about like the whole thing about being embodied, being at this juncture of history, at this place in the world, blah, blah, blah. Like the political dimensions of this, I would say that I'm really struggling with how to make sense of Birdpeople in a political... When we talk about politics and music and Birdpeople, I think it's really hard because to me there is something very political about this. It's just that like music making, for me at least, is like politics by different means, right? It's not face value political, but it's the same quest. I used to be a little black bloc person. I've fought fascists in the street, and I've done my fair share of activism, even if it was for a shorter time than some of the fucking legendary activist people that I got to know. But to me, this is just trying to approach the same thing in a different way, because I felt that I couldn't get where I wanted to go by being political expressly. Even if, I mean, we all are. It's just Birdpeople is like a different angle on the same, basically political problem. They are several. I would.
They sure are.
They sure are.
Yes.
Plural. Yes. That was pretty meandering, but I hope you got the gist of it.
Yeah, in a sense, everything you do is political, whether or not you intend it to be.
Right.
But the arts especially, because they involve so much expression, and I forget which of you it was, but someone else was saying how a lot of it has to do with your position in the world, and that is inherently tied up in the political structures in which we live.
Yeah, definitely. But in the same way, I agree with you, Jakob. But for me, it's also, I'm just trying to live my life. And making music is part of that. I think I'm not as... I haven't thought things through like you do, in a way, in the same way, when it comes to politics. I'm just doing my stuff. And if it happens to be defiant, that's great. That's like the best.
That's good. That sounds really nice. And wise.
I don't know.
I think so.
How much of the world building is concrete and how much of it is just like a vibe? And either one's fine, but I'm just curious about this theoretical planet.
100% the vibe, I'd say, you know?
Yeah, for me at least, I think Gin War is like fantasy or imaginary excursions to different places in this world and in different times of this world. Maybe some of them in the future. But then on a different level, every song is their own world or is their own world building somehow. But for me, the album is like a way to relate to this world.
Yeah.
So, and Eurovagus, can't you tell what Eurovagus comes from?
Yeah, I can. I just wanted to add that Gin War is a great example, and maybe this is why we have started talking about our songs in this manner, because Gin War is a real place, right? It's in Syrian Kurdistan. It's a female separatist town that's under, today it would be under the Syrian Democratic Forces, but it was set up by the YPJ, which was the women's division of the federalist Kurdish militia that fought against the Islamic State and tried to set up like an ecological feminist democratic semi-socialist system in Kurdistan. So Gin War is also about that and how that is emblematic of something else. And you had a different question which I didn't answer.
But
no, it was Cecilia. Eurovagus, right?
But say that.
Yeah, Eurovagus is like a mendicant monk. It means wandering. So when the album was finished, we didn't make it. It's not like Holst's Planets. We didn't set out to make like a cosmology or like a solar system or anything like that. But when the album was done, and we had kind of just followed the scent of each of these songs till the end, and then when we put it together, we were like, oh, these are like planets. So Eurovagus is, the name. It's wandering because the recordings on the album are from all over the world, and we worked on it for a long time. So, but it's also about like a hypothetical witness that we call Eurovagus. This is all like retcon, mind you, but Eurovagus is like a witness that just is like it could be a Tarkovsky film, right? That he never made. There's an alien craft, Eurovagus, that just shows up and witnesses things happening on different worlds, and our album is like traveling on the Eurovagus. But this is all retcon. It's not a concept album. This is just how we made sense of it afterwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool idea, though. I'd love to see that as like a series of short films or something.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. No, because I also think, for example, the song called Namnlösen, which is in the later part of the album. If Gin War is resistance and somewhat fighting for this world or for, I think Namnlösen is just like being at peace with whatever happened. Maybe it all collapsed, or maybe the catastrophe came, and Namnlösen could be just like floating in water, being at peace. I don't know.
Yeah, our friend Victor said, everything seems lost, everything seems won. That was his commentary on that song.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are, for me, but that's my my feeling of it.
Yeah, sounds beautiful though. All right, that brings us to the end of our episode. Do you all have anything that you would like to plug?
Well, we have to plug our album, right? It's out everywhere digitally and soonish on vinyl as well, hopefully. It's called Eurovagus. Yeah. Please give it a listen because our PR company really fucked us with this. So, yeah, help.
Thank you.